Devarim of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, at verse 4. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Shema Yisrael,
Shema Yisrael,
Yahuwah Eloheinu,
Yahuwah Eloheinu,
Yahuwah Akkad.
Yahuwah Akkad.
Shemot of Exodus, chapter 20, at verse 3. We will have no other mighty ones against the Most High. We will not make any carved image or any likeness of that which is in Shamayim above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. We will not bow down to them, nor serve them. For Yahuwah our El is a jealous El, visiting the wickedness of the fathers on the children, to the third and fourth generation of those who hate him, but showing kindness to thousands of those who love him and keep his commandments. We will not bring the name of Yahuwah our El to nothing. For Yahuwah will not leave us unpunished, who brings his name to nothing. We will remember the Shabbat day to keep it Kodesh. 6 days we will labor and do all our work. But the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahuwah our El. For in 6 days, Yahuwah made Shamayim and the earth and the sea and all the descendants, and rested the seventh day. Therefore, Yahuwah barak the Shabbat day. We will respect our fathers and our mothers, so that our days may be long upon the earth. We will not murder. We will not commit adultery. We will not steal. We will not bear false witness against our neighbor. We will not covet anything that is our neighbor. Father Yah, we come before you, asking that you would look upon us, Father. Your people, Father, remove anything that is unlike you, that you would allow your word to proceed forth, Father, that you would remove all confusion and give forth understanding, Father, that you would impart wisdom upon each and every one of your children, that you would open up the hearts and the minds of your people to receive your word, that you would get utterance unto the speaker and understanding unto the hearer, so that we all may be doers of your word, that you would allow your word to proceed forth unimpeded, Father, and unhindered, Father, that you would allow it to be received with thanksgiving and gladness, Father, and that you would allow it to be applied, Father, with joyfulness of heart. Father, all these things we pray and we give thanks. And we ask that you would look upon our brother Travis, allow him to regain his health and his strength, Father. And all these things we pray and we give thanks. Bashem Yehuwah, Benkaya, Oshua, Hamashiach, Baruch HaKodesh, so be it. So be it. Okay. So it was Trav turning the rotation to drop, but he is not feeling well, and he has to try to take care of that, make sure he's feeling up to par. So yes, oh no, yes. So let's make sure that we keep him lifted up in prayer and the whole nine. So what we are going to do instead, and what we don't broadcast when something like this happens, but we're going to have the question and answers, and we're going to actually open it up to the live stream for question and answers. So anybody that's out there that's watching the stream, if you have questions, drop them in the comment box. Can somebody pull the live stream up and just keep a view of the comments to see if there any questions come through there?
All right.
Who's that?
I did.
Okay, cool. And that's open, of course, to everybody in the room, questions and answers. And we will definitely try to address everything as as the Most High give us the utterance. First things first, I like to put people on blast, but if it is your first time visiting with us, we do ask that you stand and introduce yourself so that you can be greeted properly. Not to put you on the spot, but just so we can greet you and welcome you in.
Welcome to you.
I'm sorry.
I just said my name.
Oh, okay. Well.
Larry's my husband. He came last week and he got me.
Right. Yeah, and just want to extend a welcome to you, let you know that you always welcome. You and Larry both. You did this. He had to go through this last week, so he don't look like he warned you on the way in. But it's cool. What's your name? Raynell. Welcome, Raynell. I want to welcome you both with open arms. If either of y'all are always welcome here. We here every Sabbath, and we're trying to do some other things as far as outreach goes to the community and that within, throughout the week. So, but, feel welcome to be here. We will be here. You're amongst family. If you have questions amongst this, question and answer, there aren't any dumb questions. You got questions, feel free to ask. This is not the typical way we do things. We usually have a prepared lesson, but due to the circumstances, we're not doing that today. But so that opens it up to have question and answers like we usually do after the lesson, but we extend it for however long. I'm sure there's going to be questions. There usually always do. So, does anybody have anything you would like to address? Or is there anything in the stream? Is one?
When they appear?
It's probably the same person that asked for the two witnesses lesson.
We don't know exactly when they will appear, but we know before Messiah returns, and they're going to get you prepared for the greatest part of the tribulation that's coming. But as far as pointing it out, putting a time on it, we don't do that. Anybody in here?
But may I ask, is there a series of things that happens prior to their appearance? And what I mean by that is, like a series of, I don't want to say wars or some specific things that has to happen first before the two witnesses come.
Yes. Let's go to let's go to Revelation chapter 11.
Revelation chapter 11.
Yeah.
Revelation chapter 11 and verse 1. And there was given to me a reed like unto a rod, and the mallet stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of the Most High, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the set apart city shall they tread underfoot 42 months.
So here, right here, they're giving you some time right here, or a time frame. It says, but the court that is which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, for the Kodesh city they shall tread underfoot 42 months. This is the 3.5 years of the final time of the Gentiles being in the land, defiling it. Like Mashiach says, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Read on.
And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth.
That's the 3.5 years again. Go ahead.
These are the 2 olive trees, and the 2 candlesticks standing before the Most High of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out their mouth and devours their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed.
Now, again, to this time frame, I don't know when this 3.5 years actually kicks off. But during that last 3.5 years or 42 months that all of this stuff going to be taking place for the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now, I know what they really want to know is, when does it start? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to point you to a date that says 2019 it's going to happen. No, I don't know. All right.
I got a question. It was taught in the past, well, when I read the scripture, it talks a little bit about no man has ever seen the Father. Only the begotten Son, he has to carry him. It was also taught before that, like all of the New Testament, Old Testament, always Yeshua would actually deal directly with the people. He was never the Father. Are there anywhere in the scripture that you know of where the Father actually spoke to man? Because, like I said, in past it was taught that the Father, he don't need to deal with that. You know, talk to him or do nothing or whatever. And is there anywhere in the scripture that actually, and I don't know what answer this. So that's what I'm asking. Is there anywhere in the scripture where the Father actually spoke to somebody, and it wasn't Yeshua? But it was the Father actually speaking to them.
He in there a lot. The only thing is, it's Mashiach on his behalf. But I'll give you one. Hold on.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking this is because, I do a little study off on the side of other brothers.
That's
And it was told to me that the Father actually spoke to folk in the Old Testament. And it was actually the Father, and it wasn't Yeshua.
mm.
But then on the other hand, it was taught, same people's teaching that Father don't deal directly with man. So I thought maybe through your studying, I thought maybe you might have read up on something where the Father actually spoke to somebody. That's what I'm asking.
It's him speaking like a lot, but it's always through somebody else. To hear the Father's voice is death. If he actually speaking himself, it's just like seeing him. If you were to see him, it's death. So he let you see him, but through his son, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with him speaking. It was Messiah was in the form coming down, speaking on his behalf. Sometimes from the Father's perspective, and sometimes from his own perspective, which is still one. If that.
But you're talking his actual voice.
Yes, that's what I was referring to. That's your voice. Because the reason why I said it is because the brother actually took me through the scripture. I didn't write it down, and if I did, I don't know where they are, but it just hit me. And I wanted to go back through the scripture, try to find those scriptures that he gave me.
To say that this was actually the Father speaking to a person.
Right. Or to one of the prophets in the book.
Like this. So something. 22.
Where at?
Luke 3:22.
Book of Luke, chapter 3 and verse 22. And a set apart Ruach descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him, and a voice
A voice. But this voice is speaking on behalf of the Father. But it says a voice. Read that from the top again.
And the Ruach HaKodesh descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him, and a voice came from Shamayim. You are my beloved son, in you I am well pleased.
See, even with this, you can see that it's a voice speaking on behalf of the Father, but it's still like directly him. Define the law right quick. I'm gonna address this like this because let's go to the reason why you don't hear the Father Himself speaking. Get me on Genesis. Genesis chapter 3. Pick it up at about verse 8.
Now the sheep of Genesis chapter 3 and verse 8. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day.
So what's walking in the garden right here? The voice is walking, right? According to this passage, right? So it says they heard the voice walking. But is this just a sound that's walking through here? It's actually somebody that's walking, but he's called right here in this passage the voice. Right? Read that again.
And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah Elohim amongst the trees in the garden.
So they hid themselves from the presence. We're going to this word presence, it means the face. So right here, a voice is walking in the garden. Give me Deuteronomy 13 and 4.
Deuteronomy 13.
Yep.
Deuteronomy chapter 13 and verse 4. You shall walk after Yahuwah your Elohim and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice.
Do what?
And obey his voice.
Obey his voice. Because his voice is separated from him. His voice is in the form of Messiah that's coming out and telling you what the Father wants you to do. This is how this works. He is all of these different things. The arm, the hand, the voice, the name, all of these different forms. He is all of this in one. So when it says, hear him, he's letting you know that he is the voice that comes down and speaks to you on the Father's behalf. Nobody has heard the Father's voice. His own voice, so to speak.
I got one for you. Grab grab Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 24.
Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 24. And ye said, behold, Yahuwah our Elohim have shewed us his esteem and his greatness, and we have heard his voice out of the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that Elohim do talk with man, and he liveth.
So this would give you the idea that these people heard the Most High's voice and they didn't die, right? Go ahead.
Now, therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of Yahuwah our Elohim anymore, then we shall die.
So they thought that, well, they heard his voice and they lived, but if we continue to hear his voice, then we're going to die. But is this the actual voice of the Father? Is the question. So grab Exodus 19 and verse 19. Oh, this is the same thing. This gives you the same concept of what we're hearing as far as the Father's voice from what we heard, what was heard when the Ruach descended upon Mashiach and when the voice was walking in the garden. Shemot 19 and 19.
Exodus 19 and 19. And when the voice sounded long and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and Elohim answered him by a voice.
And Elohim answered him by a voice. So there's a mouthpiece for the Most High speaking on his behalf. Go ahead.
And Yahuwah came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of Mount, and on the top of the mount. And Yahuwah called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up.
So this is Moses. He's speaking directly to Yahuwah, right? But notice when it says he answered by a voice, it's not the Most High's voice. It's not the Father, the voice of the Father, but it's actually the voice of Mashiach. And you can see this all through the Old Testament where Mashiach is acting on his behalf. It's a hierarchy of things, right? So Mashiach talks on behalf of the Father because he get the orders, and then he talks on behalf of the Father. And then who speaks to man on behalf of Mashiach? The prophets.
Yeah.
The prophets, right? So it's a hierarchy of things. When a message needed to be relayed, the prophets are the ones who relayed the message unto the people. And it was like, yo, repent. That message came through the prophets, because all through the prophets, that's the whole idea that's being presented, is repent, because you're about to die.
Yes.
But it's really in depth when you have to understand, and you really have to understand the concept of what's happening and what's taking place throughout the whole book. You know, and that's why it's so difficult when we were just having this conversation before we actually started officially about dispelling Mashiach, because he's so throughout the book. It's hard to really negate the fact that this is him.
Anything else on that chat, on that line?
For the children of Ishmael.
Who are the children of Ishmael?
Let's go to
Like modern day.
Genesis 16. Pick it up at about verse 9.
Genesis 16 and verse 9. Genesis 16 and verse 9. And the Malak of Yahuwah said unto her, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hands. And the Malak of Yahuwah said unto her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for the multitude. And the Malak of Yahuwah said unto her, behold, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because Yahuwah have heard your affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man.
Right there. So it says, this is talking about Ishmael directly. Hagar's mother, Malachim. This is Mashiach talking to his mom. And he let her know that your son going to be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man. And every man's hand against him. This means that this is a warlike people, right? They're always fighting. There's his hand gonna be against every man, and every man's hand against him. Go ahead.
And he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren.
And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Okay, so wherever Ishmael dwells at, all his brethren dwell with him. In Genesis chapter 25. Pick it up at verse 1.
Genesis 25:1. Then again, Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shaul.
All of these names, this is Ishmael's other brothers.
Jokshan begat Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Asherim, and Letushim, and Lemumim. And the sons of Midian, Ephah and Epher, and Hanok, and Abidah, and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah.
So all of these is his other brothers. Read.
And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac, but unto the sons of the concubines, which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward unto the east country.
So into the east country, if you do your study on this, you'll know that the east country is none other than anybody? Arabia. So Ishmael is one of the people in Arabia, surrounded by all of his brethren, according to these passages. So all Arabs, but they're all not the same. This is why it clearly told us that he was going to dwell in the presence of all his brethren. So Ishmael wouldn't be the only Arab. It would be many of them, also intertwined and mixed up with Esau, Moab, Ammon. All right, hope that answered that. Anything else on there?
Yeah. If we have never observed feast days, can you shed some light on the next ones to come, how we should start partaking of work?
The next feast day? All right. Exodus 12. It sounds like somebody who maybe like new to the faith or whatever, new to the walk. So Exodus 12, the next feast day to come is Pesach. Like the next feast day that's mandated. As a matter of fact, let's grab Leviticus 23 first. I want to get this understood because I know there are people who do celebrate Purim. And I think Purim is like next month sometime. Did it? No, that was what do you call it? That just passed. Hanukkah. No, I think Purim and Hanukkah is different. Yeah. But we don't celebrate either. Purim or Hanukkah.
Celebrate the Feast of Dedication?
No, we don't. Yeah. Reason being, well, let's start with Leviticus. Let's start with Leviticus 23 at verse 1.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of Yahuwah.
The feast of men?
Yahuwah, which ye shall proclaim to be Kodesh, convocations. Even these are my feasts.
Okay. Verse, let's keep going. We read through that feast. We understand that feast is not directly related to food in itself. When we see feast, we think food mostly. But we understand that this feast, the word feast here is, I believe it's moed or moedim, which means appointed time.
Moed.
Yeah. So the actual, so the moed would be the root, which means appointed times. The moedim being the plural of it. It's but that's what he's speaking of specifically. His appointed times, the times that Yah have appointed for us to observe. So verse 3.
6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Shabbat of rest, or Kodesh convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of Yahuwah in all your dwellings.
So it's the Sabbath specifically means to cease from work. It is to cease and desist from work from Yah, according to Yah. This is an appointed time. He appointed a specific time for Shabbat, which is why we observe Shabbat. Go ahead.
These are the appointments of Yahuwah, even the Kodesh convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahuwah's Passover.
Okay, so even shall you proclaim them in their seasons. So it's certain feasts that happens in certain seasons. So in the spring you have a certain amount of feasts. There's one in summer, and then there's a few in fall. So in the spring you have what we understand to be the new year according to scripture. Happens in the spring when things are renewed, or the renewed year, right? So that's why it's addressed in the first month, right? The 14th day of the first month is Pesach. So the first month coming once the spring comes, once we get to that point, and that's when Pesach begins. So that's the next feast. And if you read Shemot or Exodus chapter 12, let's start at verse 1.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Okay.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Verse 6.
And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
Okay, so this is before the first Pesach, right? Where the Most High outlined the guidelines surrounding Pesach in Exodus chapter 12. And if you go through, we don't have to do it. And go through and read the whole thing, you see all the guidelines of what we're supposed to do. That was the very first Pesach that happened one time. So in Leviticus 23, we see where we talk about Pesach in the 14th day, and it's all the way into the 21st day, because there's a 7-day feast, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, to commemorate this one Passover night that happened when the children of Israel left Egypt. Anything? Anybody else?
What time does the Shabbat start? Some people will say it's from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Some people say it's from Saturday sun up to Saturday sundown.
Okay. So we regard Shabbat to begin when the sun comes up on the 7th day. Yeah, that's when we regard Shabbat, based on a number of reasons. But
John 11, 9. That's why I asked you the question, because Yeshua asked the question, are there not 12 hours in the day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's go back to the beginning. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 5. But yeah, so when Yeshua asked that question, he's specifically talking about the daytime part of the day, right? Because we know that an entire cycle of a day from sunrise to sunrise is more than 12 hours. You know, if we're talking about, you know.
I thought the day was day and the night was night.
Exactly. That's what I said. When he said day, he's talking about the daytime portion of a day. But when you look at the Hebrew word for yom, you see it's used all throughout Scripture as being the daytime part in some portions, and sometimes it's the complete thing, you know. But obviously, he's speaking of the daytime portion because even through the prophecy of Mashiach, death and burial, it speaks of 3 days and 3 nights, separating the two, right? So let's start at Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1.
Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. In the beginning, Elohim created the Shamaim and the rest, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And this Ruach of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light.
So that was the first creation of light. Go ahead.
And Elohim saw that the light, that it was good, and Elohim divided the light from the darkness.
So the Most High, so he divided the light from the darkness, right? Go ahead.
And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
Okay, so when people read that, they say, see, the day starts in the evening, because it say the evening and the morning were the first day. But the verbiage is wrong. It's a completely incorrect translation. And I'm going to show you that throughout Scripture. But showing you right here, he divided the light from the darkness, right? And then it says, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Not to get too technical into the language. But when you see that, and the evening, and then you see that in the morning, in Hebrew, it's a word called wayehi. It means, and evening came, and morning came, day one. So when we read that to say, and evening came, or it became evening, when the Most High was doing his work, what was it? It was day. Easily. So, because we know in the order of events, you got morning, day, evening, night. That's the progression of a day. So throughout the progression of a day, if evening is coming, if you say, yeah, I was sitting there at work, or I was over Johnny's house and we was talking, and the evening came. So when you guys were talking, what was it? It was daytime. Clearly, because the evening came as you were talking. So that's the, and if you read it out of the Hallelujah, we can read it in the, but I want to show y'all this. This same verse 5 says, and Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, day one. Notice that's the verbiage in here. That's how it's translated in here. So it's letting you know that, and all of the days are consistent throughout the whole creation narrative, that it became evening. So when he was creating, it was daytime. But I want to show you something. As a matter of fact, let's go Genesis chapter 2. Genesis, hold on. Genesis, hold on.
That's 2.
2 and
Verse 7.
yeah. Yep. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And Yahuwah Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
So before the Most High breathed into the man's nostrils the breath of life, he was not a living soul. And then he became a living soul afterwards. That word became is the same word that's used all throughout Genesis 1 to describe when the evening and the morning. So it's actually it wasn't, and the evening and the morning were the first day. It actually should be translated as it became evening, then it became morning, day one. It became evening and it became morning, day 2. You will see the word in Hebrew, Wayehi, is translated as became all throughout the scriptures. but in Genesis 1 is not. And that's the discrepancy. It became, that it's clear that this word means became. So that means that before it was evening, it was something else. And us knowing the progression of a day, we understand that what's before evening is daytime. So based off of the incorrect translation in the King James Version, we understand that the progression of a day and throughout the creation story that it was morning, day, evening, night. There's so many scriptures dealing with this fact. Like it's a whole entire lesson on the YouTube channel, the understanding of days. But there's so many scriptures that show the clarity behind when the day actually begins. Yeah, even that. That's a good one too. So let's go back to Leviticus 23. What was you about to say, Brother Theophilus?
I was going to say, would you agree that evening and night are two separate things?
Absolutely.
Where most people think that evening means night.
No, evening does not mean night. So understanding it once again the language, right? The Hebrew language. So when we look at the that verse, that Genesis chapter 1 and verse 5, you got, and he separated the light from the darkness, and he called the light day, Yom, and he called the darkness night, Lila. And then the evening came, Erev, and then the morning came, Boker. You got 4 separate words. It means 4 separate things. Erev literally means mixture. It literally means mixture. So that's a mixture of the light and the dark. Erev. Right? That's what evening is. Lila is dark. The darkness. He called the darkness Lila. That lets you know that when it's completely dark, that's night. That's Lila. He called the day Yom. That means when it's completely light, it's Yom. But when it's growing to be light, that's Boker. When it's growing to be dark, that's Erev. Evening. Right? Leviticus 23 and
27.
yeah, and verse 26.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 26. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a Kodesh convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahuwah your Elohim.
So it's telling you that in the 10th day of the month, it should be a day of atonement, right? The 10th day of the 7th month, there should be a day of atonement. Verse 31.
Verse 31. Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generation and all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even.
Mm-hmm.
From even unto even shall you celebrate your Sabbath.
Okay, so this specifically tells you that this particular feast day begins on the 9th day at evening. And it lasts all the way until the 10th day at evening. If a complete day was evening to evening, why mention it? There would be no reason to mention. But it also shows you that the 9th day at evening, all the way into the 10th day at evening, is 2 separate days, an evening and a night. Then the 10th day is the next day, and it ends that evening. It's a one complete day. But it's naming 1 9th and 1 10th. So the evening from the night before, and the daytime from the day coming, the 10th day. Follow what I'm saying? Yes, no? Okay, this is what I'm saying. So, let me see this. Okay. So this little diagram here. This little diagram here. You got the 9th day at evening beginning right here, right? So after the 9th day, after evening comes what? Night, right? So you have the nighttime right here. Then after nighttime, what comes? Morning. So you have the separation of the 9th and the 10th day right here is the morning. Then you have the daytime of the 10th day. Then what comes after day? Evening. Then you have the 10th day evening. So it's telling you it's going to begin the 9th day at evening. And it's going to end the 10th day at evening. So it's going to encompass this entire day. 24 hours. Exactly. But the question is, if that was the norm, if every day began and ended at evening, then why the distinction? That's one thing. The other thing is, if the days began at evening, then if this was the 9th day at evening, this daytime part should be what? But it's not. It's the 10th day. So it's showing you the sequence of events. 9th day daytime, evening, 9th day nighttime, morning, 10th day daytime, evening, 10th day nighttime. And that's the whole sequence. That's how it rolls through.
One of the days out of the feast that's broke down to be done like this. But everybody always go to this verse to say, see, this is how it's done. But it distinguishes that this is the only one that is done in this fashion. The rest of them are not outlined to be done like this.
One of the verses that helped me out, made me understand that a day do not start at night is Leviticus chapter 7 and 15. Okay? Read it.
Yeah, I got it. Leviticus chapter 7 and verse 15. And the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offerings for the thanksgiving shall be eaten the same day.
What day?
The same day.
Read from the top one more time.
And the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offerings for thanksgiving shall be eaten the same day.
It must be eaten in the same day that it is sacrificed, right? Read.
That it is offered. He shall not leave any of it until morning.
Until when?
Until morning.
So if he leave it until morning, if he eat it when the sun come up, when the morning come up, what? That's the next day. He broke it right then and there. Because the morning, when the sun comes up, a new day starts. If he would have left that sacrifice until the morning, he would have just broke the law. Easy.
Find a marriage in the scriptures.
The fines one?
Yeah, marriage.
Right, of course.
I mean, you know, there's a marriage between us and, yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about.
Let me see. Where you at?
22.
Good running.
A man take a wife and go into her and hate her.
I want to go.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with Genesis 24. Matter of fact, hold on. Let's start with Yeah, Genesis 24 and verse 67. 24 and 67.
Genesis chapter 24, verse 67. And Isaac brought her into his mother's Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
Okay, so that's the verse that brothers will read and say, see, he took her into the tent and she became his wife. That's it. Wham, bam, bam, that's marriage. But they never go back to the beginning and read the story in its entirety. So we're going to start from Genesis 24, and we're going to start at verse 1.
Excuse me, what was the question?
The question was, what defines marriage in the scripture?
Okay.
So we're going to go through and show you the example of a marriage, a legit marriage, not the. But we're gonna go through and show you the other ones too within the law. But we want to show you a legit consensual marriage. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Genesis chapter 24, verse 1. And Abram was old and well stricken in age, and Yahuwah had increased Abraham in all things. And Abram said unto his eldest servants of his house that ruled over all that he had, put, I pray you, thy hands under my thigh, and I will make thee swear by Yahuwah, the Elohim of Shamaim and the Elohim of earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. But you shall go into my country and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Isaac. And thy servant said unto him, peradventure the woman will not be willing to follow me unto this land. Must needs bring thy son again unto the land from whence thou camest? And Abram said unto him, beware thou, that thou bring not my son thither again. Yahuwah Elohim of Shamaim, which took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, which spake unto me, that swear unto me, saying, unto thy seed will I give this land.
That's good. That's good. So we understand Abraham was stricken with age, right? So he sent his eldest servant to go find a wife for Isaac. This is what's happening here. So verse 10.
Verse 10. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his masters and departed, for all the goods of his masters were in his hand. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia unto the city of Nahor.
That's good. So the servant went to Nahor to go find a wife, and there was all these stipulations that he's like, yo, if the woman do this, then that's got to be her. If the woman do that, then that's got to be her. Let's start at verse 15.
Verse 15. And it came to pass, before he had done speaking, that behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin. Neither had any man known her. She went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, let me, I pray thee, drink a little water of thy pitcher.
That's good. That's good. Let's jump down to verse 29. Wait. No. Verse 21.
Verse 21. And the man wondering at her held his peace, to wit whether Yahuwah had made his journey prosperous or not.
So he wondered if the Most High done blessed him enough to find what he was looking for, a wife for Isaac. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as the camel had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of a half shekel weight and 2 bracelets of her hand of 10 shekels weight of gold, and said, whose daughter are you? Tell me, I pray you, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge in?
Verse 29. So you see that he took the gold, right? The bracelets, the earrings, right? The servant did. Verse 29.
And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban.
Had a what?
Had a brother, and his name was Laban.
Okay, so this is Rebecca's brother. We all familiar with Laban, Rebecca's brother. Go ahead.
And Laban ran out unto the man unto the well. And it came to pass, when he saw the earring and the bracelet upon his sister's hand.
When he saw what?
When he saw the earrings and the bracelets upon his sister's hand.
So the servant took the earrings and the bracelets and he did what with them? He put them on Rebecca, right? Go ahead.
And when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spake the man unto me, that he came unto the man, and behold, he stood by the camel at the well. And he said, Come in, thou blessed of Yahuwah. Wherefore standest thou without? For I have prepared the house and room for the camels. And the man came into the house, and he ungirded his camels, and gave straw and provender for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the men's feet that were with him. And there was set meat before him to eat. But he said, I will not eat until I have told mine errand. And he spake, and he said, Speak on.
Jump down to 47.
Verse 47. And I asked her and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said,
I'm sorry, verse 40.
Verse
40. Verse 40.
And said unto Noah, Before whom I walk will send his Malachim with you, and prosper thy way, and thou shalt take a wife for my son, of my kindred, and of my father's house.
Okay. So now verse 47. So he's retelling the story of his previous conversation with Abraham. After he had already put these jewels on Rebecca, I'm come looking for a wife for my master's son. Right? Verse 47.
Verse 47. And I asked her and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor, son of whom Milcah bare unto him. And I put the earring upon her face, and the bracelets upon her hands. And I bowed down my head and worshiped Yahuwah, and increased Yahuwah Elohim of my master Abraham, which had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter unto his son.
So the Most High led me to this woman to take her to my master's son, right? Verse, oh, keep going.
And now, if ye will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me; if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left.
So if you're going to deal kindly with my master, who is he talking to? He's talking to her father. If you will deal kindly to my master and allow your daughter to marry my master's son, let me know. If not, I'm out. Go ahead.
Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said,
So then her brother and her father answered and said what?
The thing proceeded from Yahuwah. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her, go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as Yahuwah hath spoken.
Okay, that's good. So before Isaac took Rebekah into his mother's tent, he had to get permission from her father, and he gave her dowry. It wasn't just like, come woman, you mine. Don't get it twisted though. According to the law, if you did such a thing, there were rules and parameters surrounding it. But a righteous consensual marriage, you have to get the permission from the father. There had to be something given in exchange for the daughter. And then they had to, in order for consent, right? And then the going in the tent part is what sealed the deal, right?
What about the father's not alive?
Then there was brother. That's why the brother was present as well. But according to the law, which we can get that, what was that? Deuteronomy. Because all of these things are spelled out in the law, right? Um, we talk about but go ahead.
Would this be pertaining to a virgin?
This portion in particular, or what we just read,
Period.
marriage period.
As far as the ceremony and the scripture that's written here.
Well, in this particular passage, it definitely is pertaining to a woman who had not known a man. You know what I mean? There are stipulations around a woman who has known a man. If her husband is dead, then she good, but the brother's supposed to take her according to the law. If the husband died, the brother's supposed to take her to wife or whatever. But in this day and age, things have changed from that regard. But
isn't that only if she has no children?
Nah,
That the brother take her.
I don't know. I don't think so.
If she don't have any children, then the brother take her.
Let me look. Let's look and see.
That's the scenario of David.
But even if she didn't have any children, that don't necessarily mean that she didn't know a man. She was married. That means that she knew her husband in that regard. You know what I mean? Regardless of children or not. But we know because that part I'm talking about is talking specifically if she had a husband and the husband died, right? Mm-hmm. So if she had a husband, that means that she was no longer, a virgin, what we consider a virgin. We find it.
Not but Judas. What happened to Judas' son? When he was supposed to give his daughter off to the next son, he died without giving her any children. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, and then he spilled his seed and was killed. So he did have intercourse, but he didn't produce children.
Right.
And he still was obligated to give him. But I don't know what's the scenario of a woman with a child and the diary and all these things, so on and so forth.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna find it. The enticing down to the library. Mm-hmm. Not just that. I mean, it's so much specific. Which specific question we addressing? About the children not having any children, or because did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. And then said you had a question about
what did that fall in line under the same circumstances that the permission, the diary, and things and that aspect for a woman with a child, whether she died or was put away.
Or if she was put away.
If she was put away, she can't marry anybody. She can never marry anybody if she's put away. Unless the man dies.
And you said there's another situation that goes through.
Yeah, that's what we was looking for.
Oh,
Exodus 22:16. Go ahead.
So this will be the case of if they went ahead and consummated it. Says, if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her.
So if she's not betrothed, means she's not promised. There's no arrangements made for her to have, a marriage. Right? Go ahead.
And lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife.
So if he lie with her, if he entices her to lie with her, then he is supposed to take her as a wife, according to the law. Go ahead.
If her father utterly refuse to him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of a virgin.
Okay, so if her father refuses, then he still have to pay the father a dowry. Because now he has taken the purity of the woman. So now this is as I guess as crass as it is to say that it was looked at as like the woman would have brought some type of wealth to the father because he would have sold her, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And the dowry, he would have received something in exchange for his daughter's hand in marriage, right? But once this man took her and he refused the marriage, now he's not going to receive as much because she was going to be looked upon. It's like she not pure no more. She, like it's something wrong with her. She, so yeah, she an open item, so you can't sell it for the sticker price. You know what I'm saying? That's really essentially what it was. But that's the other situation, that the father can refuse it. But yet it don't say that she can't marry. She can still marry in the future, even though her virginity has been taken, I believe. It don't say that she can't.
The reason why I brought that question up is some people, I've heard people say, once you lie with a woman, actually live with a woman, you actually marry, God's eyes. That's why I brought the question.
Yeah.
That's all.
If the father can put the smash on, like we talking about lawful according to Torah. The father can put the smash on it. Like it ain't. Yeah, it ain't happening. But if not, then that means that you got to take her as your wife, and you got to pay the father the dowry.
You see.
Like in this day and age, two people that's living together that's not married. That's not
legally married.
Not legally
married in God's eyes just because they live together like that.
Are they living together consensually? And yeah, that's absolutely marriage. I mean, if there should
without a marriage license.
Yeah. I mean, it's no. I mean, there's nothing spoken of as far as the marriage license. What we just read with Isaac and Rebecca, there was an agreement between the father and Abraham's servant, who was Abraham's representative, that two fathers agreed that our children gonna get married. There wasn't no paperwork to say that. You know what I mean? But the license came into play later on. Even in it came into play later on because it was protection for the woman. Because now if I put you away, you know what I mean, you got nothing. Yeah, you just can send you away with nothing.
Right.
But if it was protection for the woman. But according to the Bible, according to Torah, you don't have to get married by the power vested in somebody else through the state of Michigan. You know what I mean? That's a legally binding document for the state of Michigan. But as far as the Most High goes, there is no legally binding document that you have to have. The document that he mandates, or that was mandated by Moses to have, was a bill of divorcement if you were to be divorced.
But it would be wise, to get the ketubah thing, right?
For protection.
Because there's a lot of brothers who say, "Oh yeah, that's my wife," and then you get mad at her and say, "Oh no, we're not married."
Right, exactly.
It's a lot of
when
that.
it comes to things like if the wife was to be in an accident, have to have surgery, he couldn't.
Right.
He couldn't sin.
You can't make any decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be up to
To parents, yeah. And so, like what I'm saying, it's protection.
Right.
It's a legally binding, and even if you have, and don't get it twisted, you can create your own documentation. You know what I mean, and register it.
Right.
So that you still have legally binding documentation.
Just like you can create your own divorce.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have legally binding documentation that didn't have to come from the state, that outlines the boundaries of your marriage. To whereas if something like that happened, or if something happened to to somebody, that they would be provided benefits as a beneficiary. Those things are for protection.
Right.
From a really financial protection.
Right.
Here's some questions we got. Who is Esau? Who does the white man come from? All right. That's one of the questions.
I knew that was coming when the Ishmael question came out. That was the follow-up.
You got your own.
There was a follow-up.
You got your own. Jonathan. All right, we're gonna go a couple places. So who saw it?
Wait, was Jonathan the Bible dictionary?
Yeah.
I think I can get that thing.
Anybody in here got their Zondervans?
Yeah, if I gave that very well. Told me to throw it out there.
You got a lot of Timbuktu?
Yeah. Told me to throw that one away. Yeah, I got about a lot of Timbuktu.
All right, because they asked also, where does the white man come from? All right, let's get Esau. Let's address that. Get Genesis chapter 25. Genesis chapter 25, verse 23.
The book of Genesis, chapter 25 and verse 23. And Yahuwah said unto her, 2 nations are in your womb.
2 nations are in thy womb. Go ahead.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated from your bowels.
So with this, they'll say that this means that see, it's 2 different races of people in there. 2 manner of people. Well, was Cain and Abel 2 manner of people? 2 different type of people? Completely, right?
Yeah.
One was evil and one was righteous. 2 manner of people. We have the same dynamic right here. Read on.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
So they'll say that we are the strongest people. Right? Black man is athlete. Judah can jump high and all this stuff, right? And say one is stronger. But as you can see all through the book, Jacob was actually afraid of Esau numerous times,
Right.
running from him. Read on.
And the elder shall serve the younger.
Go ahead.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment.
Red all over like a hairy garment. See, when white people get mad, they turn red. Doesn't mention anything about him getting mad. It just said that he was red all over like a hairy garment when he was born. Read.
And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter.
Esau was a what?
A cunning hunter.
Cunning hunter. See? The white man is the one that go hunting. He the one, only reason we see that because we stay in America.
Right, yeah.
But if we stayed in China, it'll be the Chinese people on the news hunting, doing what they doing.
That joker hunt with bows and guns. In Africa, they hunt with spears.
Right. Read on.
And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison.
Why does Isaac love him? Ate of his venison. So if Esau is the white man and he cooked bloody steaks and things of this nature, that means Isaac loved it. Because it says he loved them because of the venison, right? So it's letting us know the reason that Isaac loves Esau is because of the venison. Read. Verse 28.
And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sod potted.
Who cooking this pottage?
Jacob sod potted.
Jacob is making this, not Esau. They know the dietary law, right? So would it make sense for Jacob to take some bloody meat and just put it in the thing without washing it off, without cleaning it or doing anything to it? Would it make sense for him to just put it in there bloody? For blood to be in there? That don't make sense, do it? Read.
And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray you, with that same red pottage.
So right here he says, they'll say that, see, he wanted it before it was done. It wasn't cooked all the way through. It wasn't thoroughly prepared. So he eating it too fast. Right? Read.
For I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom.
Was his name called who?
Edom.
Edom. So let's see what he actually ate. Jump down to verse 34.
Verse 34. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils.
Of what?
Of lentils.
Of lentils. So it tells you directly in the text what it is that he was eating. It was not a bloody steak or whatever they say it is. It was lentils. Lentils come in different colors. Green, brown, red. So it wasn't blood that made this pottage. So this don't add up to the white man. Let's get, they say he ruled the world. Let's see. Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 9, verse 8. Ezekiel chapter 35, pick it up at verse 8. Matter of fact, read verse 1. So we know what we're talking about.
Ezekiel chapter 35 at verse 1. Moreover, the word of Yahuwah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it. And I say unto it, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against you, and I will stretch out my hand against you.
Who lives in Mount Seir? Esau, Edom. Jump down to verse 8.
Verse 8. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men in your hills and in your valleys and in all the rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. And I will make you for perpetual desolations, and your cities shall not return, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Because you have said, these two nations and these two countries.
These two what?
Countries.
These two nations, these two countries, not the whole world, Esau was not out for the whole world. He was out for what he thought belonged to him through his birthright and through him the blessing, which he lost. Read.
These two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it. Whereas Yahuwah was there.
Whereas where?
Yahuwah was there.
Can anybody show me anywhere where Yah was in America? I'll wait, but I know you can't show me. So we know that this gotta be somewhere that Yah was at. It's two places that he says, take off your shoes, because you standing on what? Holy ground. It says where Yahuwah was at. We know that it was Arabia where he was at, and one thing, and also Jerusalem. These are the places that he was at. But Esau says, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, not the whole world. Narrow it down even more. Ezekiel chapter 25, verse 12.
Ezekiel 25 and 12. Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, because that Edom have dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and have greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from T-man, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword.
So he's giving us the location of where this is going to take place at, right? So if y'all, but for whatever reason, when people read the scriptures and it give you a location, they can't grasp it for some reason. So to make this simple, if y'all were to say, and I will cut off man from Detroit to Texas, where would we look? Detroit to Texas, right? We wouldn't say, well, say Detroit and Texas. What he really not saying Detroit, Texas. He's saying exactly what he means. Right? So he gave us the location right here. He says, and I will stretch out my hand upon Edom, and I will cut off from it man and beast from it, and will make it desolate from T-man, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. So he's talking about killing these people, right? Get Jeremiah 49. Jeremiah chapter 49. Pick it up at verse 7.
Jeremiah 49 and 7. Concerning Edom, thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, its wisdom no more in man.
And where?
In man.
Did we just read about that? Read on.
Its counsel perished from the prudent. Is their wisdom vanished? Flee you, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan.
Of where?
Of Dedan.
Did we just read about them places? Read on.
For I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. If the grape gatherers come to you, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? If these by night, they will destroy until they have enough. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places.
He said what?
I have uncovered his secret places.
He says, I made him bare. I have uncovered his secret places. What's the secret places he just told you where they was at? T-man and Dedan. He just told you. Now he's telling you, I've already uncovered it. Jump down to verse 19.
Verse 19. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the habitation of the strong. But I will suddenly make him run away from her. And who is a chosen man, that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, And who will appoint me the time? And who is the shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahuwah that he has taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman.
The what?
Inhabitants of Teman.
The inhabitants of Teman. So now he's saying, I'm talking about the people of this place. The inhabitants of Teman. Read.
Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. And the earth is moved at the noise of their fall, and the cry, and at the cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea.
And where?
In the Red Sea.
In the Red Sea. What's the land next to the Red Sea?
Egypt.
On the other side. When we left from Egypt, we went through the Red Sea. Where we came out at? Saudi Arabia. So Esau is in the land of Saudi Arabia. Now we're going to just read the definition of Esau from the BDB. It says, eldest son of Isaac, Rebekah, twin brother of Jacob, sold the birthright for food when he was hungry, and the divine blessing went to Jacob. He is the progenitor of the Arab people. So according to this and all the scriptures, they all point to the people in Saudi Arabia, which are, of course, mixed in with Ishmael and the rest of his brothers. So he is the father of a sect of Arabs. So in the same question, they said the white man, who he came from. Let's address that real quick. So we're going to go to Babylon to Timbuktu. This is one of their own books that all of the camps push. This is page 22 of Babylon to Timbuktu. It says, we have more than adequate proof that the white races began near the Caucasus Mountains. The Caucasus Mountains, by the way, are not Mount Seir. They are not in the Middle East. And from there, they spread forth. They spread north, northwest, and northeast into Europe and Asiatic Russia. Now we know that the Japhites, Europeans, are white today. So according to one of their own books that they use, it says that the Europeans, or the white race, comes from Japheth. All right, let's go to Joel chapter 3 and pick it up at verse 6.
Joel chapter 3 and verse 6. The children of Judah, the children also of Judah, and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians.
To who?
Unto the Grecians.
Unto the Grecians, or Greeks. So let's see. This word, it says to the Grecians. We're going to H3125, and it means Grecian, Ionians, or Yavani, from H3121. Javin. So now, a Javanite or descendant of Javin. Now we got to see who Javin comes from. Let's go to Genesis chapter 10. Because this is who the Greeks come from, right? Genesis chapter 10, pick it up at verse 2. So we're looking for Javin, to see Javin or Javan, who this comes from. Verse 2.
Verse 2. Now the sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Madai, and Javin.
And who?
And Javin.
So according to what we just read, the Grecians descend from who?
Japheth.
From Japheth. Just like we read in this Babylon and Timbuktu. So, in short, Esau is not. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And the sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz.
Who?
Ashkenaz.
Ashkenaz. What do the Jewish people in the land call themselves? Ashkenazi Jews. Read.
And Ribhah, and Togarmah, and the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue in their nations.
So one of the sons right here, the main ones, it says, and the sons of Javan, Elishan, Tarshish, Kittim. So we're going to go into Kittim. Kittim, it says bruisers. So we come down, it says partial from an unused name denoting Cyprus, only in the plural. Kittim, Cyprite, hence an islander in general, that is, the Greeks or Romans on the shores opposite Palestine. Can't be no clearer than that. Unless somebody translate the book, the Greeks and the Romans is the white man. So that's it on that. So it says, is Yah a physical being or a spiritual being? Now, let's answer that for you.
Esau was identical except for the hair. You know,
One moment on this. John chapter 4, verse 23. But they ask, is Yah a physical being or spiritual or both? Go ahead.
John chapter 4 and verse 23. But the hour comes, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in Ruach and in truth. For the Father seeks such to worship him. Elohim is a Ruach, and they that worship him must worship him in Ruach and in truth.
So, answer to this, he is a spirit and not physical, according to Mashiach's own words. Next question. What if you don't have anyone to immerse you? Can that person or people immerse themselves? Immerse themselves. I don't know of any law that would forbid you from immersing yourself. So it says, where there is no law, there is no sin. But what if you don't have anyone, person, people, persons?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. Just because the point of the immersion, hold on, let me find it.
One more.
One moment.
I got a real quick question for y'all.
Go ahead.
Are there any examples in the Bible where a person has immersed themselves compared to some prophet, some apostle, somebody in the Word of God actually being at least with them and actually, because I'm kind of confused about that myself. I'm not really confused, but I just got questions about it. Well, and because when we do something, we want to make sure we do it according to the word that's in the scripture. We don't want to. We want to speak right things about the Lord and do things according to what's in the word. So I kind of got some questions about that myself. Not that I want to do it by myself, but at least just try to be as close to the truth as possible while doing that act.
All right, so let's grab, first things first, let's grab, hold on. Numbers chapter 8 and verse 6.
Numbers chapter 8 and verse 6. Take the Levite from among the children of Israel and cleanse them.
Okay, so this is the Most High talking about cleansing the Levites for the order of the house. Go ahead. Purifying them. Go ahead.
And thus shall you do unto them, to cleanse them, sprinkle water of purifying upon them, and let them shave all their flesh, and let them wash their clothes, and so make themselves clean. Then let them take a young bullock with his meat offering, even fine flour, and mingle with oil, and another young bullock shalt thou take for a sin offering. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together.
Jump down to verse 13.
And thou shalt set the Levites before Aaron and before his sons, and offer them for an offering unto Yahuwah. And thou shalt separate the Levites from among the children of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine.
Okay. So this is when they cleansed the Levites for the order of the house, right? Before Aaron's sons, because Aaron's sons were the order of the high priest, right? So let's grab 2 Chronicles chapter 29. Verse 10.
2 Chronicles chapter 29 and verse 10. Now it is in mine heart to make a covenant with Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, that his fierce wrath may turn away from us, my sons. Be not now negligent, for Yahuwah hath chosen you to stand before him, to serve him, that you should minister unto him and burn incense.
Okay, go ahead.
Then the Levites arose, Mahath, the son of Amasa, and Joel, the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites, and the sons of Merari, Kish, the son of Abdi, and Azariah, the son of Jehaleel, and of the Gershonites, Joah, the son of Zimma, and Eden, the son of Joah, and the sons of Eliphan, Shimri, and that name, and the sons of Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattaniah, and the sons of Heman, Jahiel, and Shemiah, and the sons of Jathunim, Shemiah, and Uzziel. Want me to just read these names?
Jump down to verse 15.
And they gathered their brethren and sanctified them and came.
And they did what?
And they gathered their brethren and sanctified themselves.
And did what?
And sanctified themselves.
So they gathered their brethren and they did what?
Sanctified themselves. And came according to the commandment of the king by the words of Yahuwah to cleanse the house of Yahuwah. And the priests went into the inner parts of the house of Yahuwah to cleanse it, and brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of Yahuwah into the court of the house of Yahuwah. And the Levites took it to carry it out abroad into the brook of Kidron.
Okay, that's good. So you see that these Levites went into the temple to cleanse it, but before they went into the temple to cleanse it, they did what? They cleansed themselves, right? They purified themselves. That's what the immersion is. It's purification, right? It's the cleansing, the outward cleansing for the inward cleansing, right? So this is an example of people who actually cleanse themselves. And the labors that was in the temple was for cleansing. That's what they was for, to wash the sacrifice. The people had their own to be washed in. So yeah, absolutely, I believe that you can. And that's why even when we do our immersions here, nobody forces you under. We're not pushing you backward under the water. Like, you're going in under your own power, and you know, so that you let the Most High know this is a self-sacrifice that you're doing, and you cleansing, you're doing it yourself. We're there with you, coaching you through it, giving you the understanding, but no one is doing it to you or doing it for you.
So that's it on. That's it for this person questions.
I'm going to go back to the marriage, kind of in Deuteronomy chapter 24, because I'm kind of confused about what was said in the law and what was said about in the New Testament.
Well, I already know you're going to.
Where you at? Deuteronomy
24. Verse 1.
Yeah, verse 1 to verse 4.
All right, so what's your direct question, though?
My direct question is, in this it says that my direct question is, when this woman, when they found uncleanness in her, and the man lawfully put her away, it says that she could be another man's wife. Would that be adultery?
No.
So what's the difference between this and what's in the New Testament when...
I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 1. Read that for me.
When a man have taken a wife and married her, and it came to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he have found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement in her hand, and send her out of his house.
So the first thing we got to know is there's a difference between putting away and divorce. Anybody know the difference? There's a difference between putting away and divorce. Everybody lumps them up into be the same thing. They are not the same. Go ahead,
Put away today would be compared to doing the wife separate versus divorce, which is not gathering more, removed from you.
Right.
Separation is just, temporary basis, not at the moment, something of that nature.
Right. Okay. Pick it up at verse 2. Get your scripts out the New Testament where you going. Okay.
Verse 2. And when she departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife.
Be what?
Another man's wife.
Another man's wife. So right here, it lets us know when the man finds some uncleanness in this woman that he married, if he finds some uncleanness in her, he's to write her a bill of divorcement and send her out of his house. Now, if he don't give her the bill of divorcement, she is still what? His wife. So now, if she's still his wife, that means she can't go and marry somebody else because that's still his wife. But if he give her the bill of divorcement and send her out of his house, now she can go and be another man's wife. What's the scripture in the New Testament you got?
Actually, Matthew, he's actually 3 of them, but
I got you.
okay, Matthew 19,
Matthew chapter 19.
actually, verse 8, and
Okay. Go ahead.
Matthew 19 and verse 8. He said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commits adultery. And whoso marries her, which is put away, does commit adultery.
Now notice what it's saying. Right here. It says, and he said unto Moses, because the hardness of your heart, he suffered you to put away, not divorce right here. It says to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. So you referring back to Adam and Eve. After Eve did what she did, Adam didn't put her away. He stayed married to her. Go ahead. Read that verse 9.
Verse 9. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commits adultery. And whoso marries her, which is put away, does commit adultery.
Because if you marry this woman that's put away, you marrying somebody else's wife, because she's still married. She's still your wife. Get the next one, what you talking about.
Mark 10, 11. This is talking about the same thing.
I got you.
Okay. Mark 11 and 12. I'm sorry, Mark 10, 11 and 12.
Mark chapter 10, verse 11 and 12. And he says unto them, whosoever shall put away his wife and marry another, commits adultery against her. And if a woman shall put away her husband and be married to another, she commits adultery.
Because it's the same thing. You still married. So they're not divorced in these instances. That's just like, again, you put them away. I didn't give you the bill of divorcement. So if I didn't give you the bill of divorcement, that means you are still married. This is why it's an adultery right here. Now I know the last one, it got some tricky little in there, but I know what you're going.
But I'm going to, but I want you to bring that one up. This one, Luke 6, this is my last one, Luke 16, 18. Because it's all talking about the same thing. But I like to read all of them because all of them got a little something in them that you might miss in the other ones.
Luke 16 and 18. Whosoever puts away his wife and marries another commits adultery. And whosoever marries her that is put away from her husband commits adultery.
Hold on. Read that one more time.
Luke 16 and 18. Whosoever puts away his wife and marries another commits adultery. And whosoever marries her that is put away from her husband commits adultery.
The same thing. If you marry this woman that's put away, you're going to be in adultery because she's still married. That's what it is.
I understood that.
So let's see, because they say, Yah hates divorce, right? I heard that, right? Let's see something. One moment. Let's get Malachi. Malachi chapter 2. Pick it up at verse 15.
The book of Malachi, chapter 2 and verse 15. And did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of the Ruach. And wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your Ruach, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. For Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, says that he hates putting away.
Hates divorce.
Hates putting away.
Hates putting away. So think about it. If a man is mad with this woman because she have done something to him, right? She committed adultery with him. And he say, you did this to me, I'm putting you away. Right? Say, I'm gonna put this guy away. I'm gonna put this woman away. I'm sick of her. According to the law, she wouldn't be able to go and marry nobody else ever. So this is why he hates putting away, because eventually that woman gonna go and be with somebody else. And this man ain't gonna forgive her for this sin. This is why he commanded you, when you find some uncleanness in her, give her the bill of divorcement. Therefore, she can go and be another man's wife. But if you just put her away, that's still your wife. And if she go be with anybody else, she is an adulterer. And we know what happened to adulterers, right? That's why it's written like this. Anything else?
Anything else on the hookup?
I know terms. It's a person, Corinthians 1:14. There's somebody that can explain that for me. Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Starts at 2, 3, and 4, maybe. Verses 2, 3, and
4. Questions about tongues.
Yeah. He that speaketh in unknown tongues speaketh not unto men.
Hold on, before we get there, this is the other one on this whole marriage thing. I mean divorce thing. 1 second, we get that. Matthew 5 and 31. Go there right quick, God. 5 and 31.
Matthew chapter 5 and verse 31. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement.
From the law, go ahead.
But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced commit adultery.
So right here, this is one of the scriptures that confuse a lot of people, because now it's saying whosoever marries her that is divorced commits adultery. But that's only in English. So the word for divorce is G647. The word for put away is G630. So the translators deliberately in verse 32 translated the word put away as divorced to mess you up. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away, G630, his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is G630, put away, commits adultery. But they translated it as divorce. This is why I've been talking about, oh man, she divorced. You can't marry her when the law clearly states if you give her a bill of divorcement, become another man's wife. So that's the difference between putting away and divorce. Now go back to what you were asking.
Yeah, the terms, we read in Acts, when people were speaking in tongues, when they were speaking in tongues, that they were speaking in unknown languages, but everyone, actually it's a known language too. For man, but unknown to maybe somebody that was speaking French.
Let's go.
So what's your question?
Okay, then it's, Paul says something in Corinthians,
You said 14?
Corinthians 14 about tongues, and it started in 2, and it goes to 4. I was just wondering what tongues he's speaking about.
Okay.
What scripture are you going?
1 Corinthians 14:2.
Okay.
For he that speaks in an unknown tongue speaks not unto men, but unto Elohim. For no man understands him. Howbeit, in the Ruach he speaks mysteries. But he that prophesies speaks unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort. He that speaks in an unknown tongue edifies himself, but he that prophesies edifies the congregation. So, what you're saying, what
tongue is that?
What tongue? So, okay, so, you want to...
We all speak English in here, right?
Uh-huh.
So I came in here prophesying, speaking German.
Uh-huh.
What would you get out of it?
Nothing if I didn't understand German.
Right.
Exactly. That's what he's saying. So why come in and speak in an unknown tongue?
There's nobody getting edification.
Right. So if I come in here talking about this awesome, like what?
So now my question is, where does the Christian church fit there?
It's where they get a lot of stuff. It's a lot of it is tradition. A lot of it is just, misunderstanding what says. Jump down to verse 37. Jump down to verse 37, verse 36. So understand what he's saying. He's saying that if you come speaking in an unknown tongue, the only one who will be able to understand you, because it's unknown to everyone in the room, be able to understand you would be the Most High. So you speaking in mysteries because it's a mystery to everybody else. But if you prophesy in the language that people know, then we are edified, right?
I understand that.
Okay, so
what I don't understand is how does the Christian church?
Because they interpret this, you speaking in the spirit to be some kind of spiritual language, but we're gonna see that it's not.
Right. So if you're speaking in lots of one for this, nobody gonna get it.
Right. A man that prophesies speaks unto men to edification. So we prophesy, but see, I think you got to understand also that he's dealing with specific things that was happening in the church in Corinth. So it's people who is trying to exalt themselves. So I know this other language, so I'm gonna speak this other language. That way I can look smart. Verse 36.
Verse 36. What? Came the word of Elohim out from you, or came it unto you only?
So are you so high up that you're the only one getting the word, or did it only come to you, or did it come from you? Go ahead.
If any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual.
So if any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, go ahead.
Let him acknowledge that the things that are right unto you are the commandments of Yahuwah.
So he's saying that the stuff that he's telling you are the commandments of the Most High. But you can see that people was exalting themselves, right? Because he said, did the word come to you only, or did it come from you? Chapter 31. I'm sorry, yeah, chapter 21. I'm sorry, Acts 21. No, that was it. 18 is what I would. 14 and 18. Wait.
Acts?
I'm tripping.
That boy had some of that vanilla wine before he came in here. Hey, vanilla, don't sit no more, all right?
Hey, I lost my drink. I thought it was 14, dude.
What you looking for?
The one where he said, speaking of tongues. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 14 to 18.
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder I'm looking at okay, my bad. 14 to 18.
1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 18. I'll pick it up.
Oh, I'm sorry, 17. 16.
15.
15.
What is it then?
14. 14.
For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful.
So nobody's gonna understand you, which is it's unfruitful. Nobody's gonna be edified if I pray in an unknown tongue. Go ahead.
What is it then? I will pray with the spirit, and I will pray with the understanding also. I will sing with the spirit, and I will sing with the understanding also. Else, when thou shalt bless with the spirit, how shall he that occupieth the room of the unlearned
Of the what?
Of the unlearned say amen? And at thy giving of thanks, seeing he understandeth not what thou sayest.
So of the unlearned, so someone who doesn't know, how can he give thanks? Because he don't know what you're saying. He's not being edified. Go ahead.
For thou verily givest thanks well.
So what you're saying is you're doing well with your prayers. They're giving thanks, but
the other is not edified.
But the person is not edified because they unlearned in the tongue, right? Go ahead.
I thank my Elohim. I speak with tongues more than ye all.
So I know more language than all of y'all. I'm smarter than all y'all. Really, that's what he's saying. Like I'm more well versed and well learned than all of you. But he's not exalting himself, right? He dealing with humility when you deal with them. As when he's dealing with with Corinth. Grab Acts 21.
Let me finish this.
Okay, go ahead.
Yet in the congregation, I'd rather speak 5 words with my understanding than by my voice I might teach others also that 10,000 words is unknown tongue in an unknown tongue.
He'd rather speak 5 words of understanding so the people can be edified rather than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. Because then it's like, yeah, the Most High understand you because he know the languages. He the one who divided them. But the people in the room don't understand you, right? And so this how you Acts 21 and 37.
Acts chapter 21 and verse 37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek?
So when he spoke to the soldier, the captain that was holding him captive, he spoke to him in his language and he asked him, how you speak in Greek? For one, he saw this black man like, yo, how you know this? How can you speak the language? Go ahead.
And art you not thou the Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness, 4,000 men that were murderers?
So this also shows you the fact that Paul was black, because it's a well-known fact that the Egyptians was black. And so my man mistaked them for an Egyptian. Like, how you speak Greek? Ain't you an Egyptian? Like, ain't you the one be causing all that madness going on? So that's showing it. And then also when Paul first was stricken with blindness, when he was knocked down on the road to Damascus, it say that the voice spoke to him in the Hebrew tongue. So that show you 2 languages right there that Paul knows. You know what I mean? Showing you that he was well versed. So he's saying, I speak in more tongues than you are. I can speak, I can you tie my shoe, I tie your bow tie. Not the you know what I'm saying, the tongues that we got in the church. You know what I'm saying? Not that, but actual a real language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason I really question, because you got people in the church speak the tongue, and then somebody turns around and interprets it.
Yeah.
Hey man, he's preaching now.
Hey, should we keep the feast of dedication? We addressed that. I'm gonna try to hit these last few questions real quick, and we're gonna close out. We addressed the feast of dedication in the beginning. We don't keep it because it's not mandated according to Torah. It is a man-made feast, feast of dedication, Purim as well. That's why we don't do them. We do what we try to observe the ones that's mandated in the Torah.
But we don't have no problem with nobody that do.
Yep. Got it. Do we have to celebrate all the holy days? It's my understanding that some of the holy days were to be celebrated only in Israel. Yeah, the holy days are to be celebrated only in Israel, according to the confines of the law. However, when you read about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, it's supposed to be done in your dwellings as well, but we're supposed to make a pilgrimage to the land for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, for the Feast of Tabernacles, and for the Feast of Weeks. Those three were mandated to be done in the land. So to be 100% accurate with keeping the feast, those feasts were supposed to be done in the land. However, we observed them. We definitely observed them because they just from an observance standpoint, we observed them, understanding that they are the parameters of the feast are supposed to be kept in the land. Yeah.
Hey, can I add something real quick, Brother
Uh-huh.
In addition to us observing them, all the feasts, the reason why I practice them because the word says that I'm supposed to, and because it helps me understand the plan for the salvation of man.
Yeah, I mean, we practice it.
Right.
It's about, okay, so it's two, we're going to address these two last questions that I see. One is, what is fornication according to the Torah? And the last one is about nutrition. Since everything in food stores is GMOs / hybrid, since the Shabbat is on Saturday and the farmer's market is on Saturday, what should one do?
So they only open the farmer's market?
I don't know. I don't know if the farmer's market where you are is only open on Saturday, but we can buy like fresh fruit and produce here other days from other places. I'm not sure. Is it only Saturday down there? Sister Monica?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying it depends on what farmers market you go to.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because like Easter market, they definitely have fresh fruit like daily, right? And then not just Easter market, it's Saturday be the what? Be the big day? But they sell it every other day though. I mean, what's the other place? Randazzo? And it's Randazzo sell the GMO stuff?
And you can't find no seeded grapes. I mean, you can't find no seeded grapes.
You can find seeded grapes at Kroger.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can. Yeah, you can.
You said what? No seeded oranges? Trader Joe's? But farmer's market, I think you get the best deal. But this will be my suggestion. This will be my suggestion. For the person who said the farmer's market is only there on Saturday. Get the information for the farmer and try to purchase on a different day. You know, I mean, I'm sure this farmer isn't only selling on Saturday. So you have to get their information and try to reach out to them to so that you aren't, you stay within the confines and the boundaries of Shabbat, so it's not to break it. So you want to try to get with these, because there are Hebrew brothers that are farmers that you can buy from, as well as I'm sure the local farmers market. You can reach out to these farmers and see how you can get the fresh ingredients, the fresh fruits, vegetables, herbs, and stuff on different days. And then I know it's a thing where you can order it online. I ain't never did that before, or know if that's how legit that is. But when you can order like a box of ingredients, y'all seen that? It's called like purple something or something like that. Yeah. But that would be my suggestion to answer that question. And the last question. Okay. We're gonna answer this question, then answer your question. Okay, the question about fornication. What is fornication according to the Torah? Okay. You got something more?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead.
So normally a lot of people would say that fornication in the Old Testament was just something spiritual, right? They'll say, well, it ain't nothing in the Torah that's talk about against fornication. They'll say there's always something spiritual, right? So here's the first time the word in English, fornication, comes up. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 11.
Second Chronicles chapter 21 and verse 11. Moreover, he made high places in the mountains of Judah and caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to commit fornication and compelled Judah thereto.
So we know that this is talking about spiritual idolatry, right? So a lot of people will say, ain't no such thing as no fornication in the Old Testament as physical, right? Well, let's see. So the Hebrew word for that fornication right there is 8:21:81. Right? So let's go to Genesis chapter 34, verse 31.
Genesis 24 and 31.
Yep. Matter of fact, pick it up at verse. Hold on. Pick it up at verse. Pick it up at verse 1.
Genesis 24 and verse 1. 24, right?
34.
Genesis 34 verse 1. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her.
He did what?
And defiled her.
He took her and lay with her and defiled her. You know what this is, right? Not rape.
He humbled her.
Yeah. He didn't rape her, though. Jump down to verse 30.
Verse 30. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with an harlot?
As with what?
As with an harlot.
The same word harlot right here is that fornication. This was a physical thing right here. So he took Dinah without the father's permission, right? He enticed her without the father's permission, so he has caused Dinah, in a sense, to play the harlot. So it's the same exact Hebrew word right here, harlot. Let's see it in another instance. Get Genesis chapter 38. We're going to pick it up at verse 9.
Genesis 38:9. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's wife, and he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give the seed of his brother.
Okay.
And the thing which he did displeased Yahuwah. Wherefore he slew him also.
So you went through with the act, but you spilled the seed on the ground. That's the sin in that thing. Go ahead.
Then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow as your father's at your father's house, till Shelah, my son, be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted and went up to the sheep shearers to Timnah, he and his friend Herah, and Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, your father-in-law goes up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garment off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in the open place, which is by the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot.
A what?
An harlot.
That's the same word. That's that fornication. So we have both the spiritual and the physical in the law, in the Old Testament, showing what it is. So it's the same as the New Testament. You just got to go into it to see it. So right here, Judah went and committed fornication with Tamar when he laid with her.
What he did, was it unlawful?
Absolutely.
When they made them high places and idolatry, was that unlawful?
Absolutely.
So that's what fornication is.
Right.
It's unlawful acts from a spiritual level and a physical level. When you do those things that are outlined, that are outlawed by Torah, that's fornication, be it spiritual or physical. Yes.
Well,
last one.
My question is on here. I put it on here.
Oh, did you? I was looking.
Okay, so I wanted to know, can a man just divorce his wife because she don't follow Torah, or can she divorce, or can a woman just divorce her husband because he don't? Because like whether she still wants to be divorced, go to Sunday church or vice versa.
Okay, so what we read about divorce, right, says that it's unlawful to divorce except for what?
Put away. Unlawful to put away.
What's unlawful to put except for what? Except for what? Say again? Fornication, right? And we just covered what fornication is not following Torah. It's fornication, right?
Okay, but some say as long as she believes, then he covered it, or as long as he believes.
Well, if she chooses to dwell with them,
Okay.
if she or he choose to dwell with them, it's not like it's unlawful for you to stay with them. But would it be unlawful for you to leave them because they don't follow Torah? According to the law, according to what Mashiach said, you can divorce or put away.
You can divorce her, but you can't just put her away for that. The only way you can put her away is if she commits adultery. But I can
divorce him too, right?
Right, but I can divorce you for many reasons. Right? For many reasons. Especially if it's something not according to law. But that's the importance of knowing the difference between divorce and put away. Right?
That's good? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and pray out. Did y'all, I mean, was that beneficial for everybody? Was anybody edified through? I ain't see nobody snoozing or nothing, so I'm just gonna assume that it was good. I ain't say that. I said no. That's what the book said. But you know what's crazy is that Israelites know. So we know certain things, right? So we know that in actuality, even though they call us minority, that really on the face of the earth, who's the minority? Absolutely. So if they're the minority, then how do they rule the world? How? When Africa is bigger than Europe, it's bigger than America, and it's covered with black people. So how do they rule the world? Even though they have colonialized or colonized many parts of it, they ain't colonized that Middle East. But let's go ahead and pray out. Oh, shucks. So I know y'all, this is y'all first time fellowship. After we pray, we always recite Our Father in Hebrew. I recite, repeat, recite, just so you don't be thrown off like, there they go speaking in tongues. Father Yah, we come before you standing on one accord, Father, asking that you would look upon us, Father, and remove anything that is unlike you, Father. Look into our hearts, Father. Try us by our hearts, Father. We pray that you would strengthen us in spirit, Father, in body and mind, in Ruach, Father, that you would continue to walk with us, Father. Order our steps, be a light unto our path, and guide us to all righteousness. Impart wisdom upon each and every one of us. Continue to edify us according to your word, Father, and continue to bring light and life unto us through your scriptures, Father. Allow your word to be poured into us, and that it will flow out of us, Father, according to your Ruach, Father. Allow us to speak a word of power and strength unto your people who may not know of your goodness and mercy. Father, all these things we pray and we ask that you would just continue to uplift us as we are diligent in your law, Father, as we continue to walk that straight and narrow path and be obedient unto your word, Father, that you would charge us by the words of our mouth, that we would be obedient unto your word, that we would continue down that straight and narrow path, Father, continue walking towards you. And we thank you for righteousness and for the blood that was shed so that we can be uplifted and reconciled back unto you. Father, all these things we pray and we give thanks. Hashem Yehovah, Bekaya Hoshua Hamashiach, Waka Kodesh, so be. Avinu Shabbat Shemayim. Ikadosh. Shenka. Tabo. Makutka. Yeaseh. Ratsonka. Barit. Kasher. Nasha. Bashamayim. Tein Lanu. Hayom. Likin. Kikanu. Usla. Lanu. 8. Ashmatenu. Kaasher,
Kaasher,
Sokim,
Sokim,
Anaknu,
Anaknu,
Laasher,
Laasher,
Ashmu,
Asmu,
Lanu,
Lanu,
Wa'al,
Wa'al,
Tabinu,
Tabinu,
Lede,
Lede,
Masa,
Masai,
Ki,
Ki,
In, Hasulanu,
Hasananu,
Min,
Min,
Bara,
Para,
Ki,
Ki,
Laka,
Laka,
Hamam Laka,
Amam Laka,
Wahagi Bora,
Wahadi Bora,
Wahati Pare,
Wahati Pure,
Lome,
Lome,
Ulami,
Ulami,
so be it.
so be it. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.